This case is hard to shake. Jocelyn Peters, a shining light in St. Louis. She's a respected school teacher, and she and her boyfriend are expecting a beautiful baby girl. Then tragedy strikes. A brutal murder at Jocelyn's apartment. No motive, no murder weapons, just a strange crime scene that has detectives scratching their head. This wasn't random, it was planned. Who had it out for the beloved teacher? And would a mystery substance at the crime scene help catch a killer? This is 50 Ways to Catch a Killer.
St. Louis City Police Department, this is Justin. May I help you?
Sir, can you send somebody to 4236 West Pine?
Is that apartment or house?
Apartment. I just got home, and the door was open, and I walk in, and I think my girlfriend's been shot.
The afternoon of March 24th, 2016, St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department received a 911 call for a shooting.
I was dropping my kids off at daycare, and I got a text message from one of my police sources saying, there's a homicide over in this area, and he gave me the address. So I asked him, why? Why should I go to this one? What's so different? And all he said was it involved a young, pregnant St. Louis teacher.
The 911 call was made by a gentleman by the name of Cornelius Green. Cornelius Green was the boyfriend, paramour of our victim, who was later identified as Jocelyn Peters.
This was a grieving, inconsolable man who had just discovered the body of his pregnant girlfriend.
We arrived at the scene. It's a two-story, 16-unit apartment complex with 8 units on the ground floor and 8 units on the second floor. There was no signs of forced entry.
Everything was still there. Her computer was there. The only thing missing was her cell phone.
We walked down a hallway and into the bedroom. And I saw Jocelyn laying on her right side of the bed.
She had suffered a puncture wound, which was later identified as a gunshot wound. Appeared to be at close range, directly through her left eye. Blood was pooled around her head.
Then the evidence tech located a .380 cartridge casing under the nightstand next to her bed where she was laying.
It was a particularly violent, particularly gruesome homicide. This young victim, 30 years old, you could visibly see that she was pregnant at this time. In her bed around her, she had been working on baby shower invitations.
I've handled a lot of grisly homicides over the years, but just given the fact that Jocelyn was very pregnant and she was murdered in her bed, it impacted me pretty seriously.
When I got there, I was like, you need to let me in. I'm her mom, you need to let me in. And that's when the police officer had told me that Jocelyn had passed away. So then I asked about the baby, and they told me that the baby was gone too.
We spoke to her mother, who responded to the scene and clarified that Jocelyn had no known enemies, no known issues of domestic abuse, no other issues with anyone in the community, at work, at home, anything of that nature.
Jocelyn was very excited to be a mother. She was going to name her daughter Michael Lee. I was very excited for her because, I don't have any grandkids, so I was ready to be a grandmother. I was ready to play that role.
Jocelyn was just an amazing, beautiful individual. If you were in her presence, you knew that you were in company of a very good person that was genuine, caring.
Jocelyn had won the Teacher of the Year. She was a fresh teacher, and within 2 years, she was already a master teacher.
There was a memorial that started sprouting at the school where she taught. So within her family and friends and coworkers, there was an outpouring of support.
Jocelyn was a woman who lived her life to educate children in a loving and compassionate way. Her kids loved her back. Jocelyn was a lot of things to a lot of people, all good.
During their investigation of the crime scene, detectives make some puzzling discoveries.
There was no 911 calls for shots fired. There was no reports of anyone hearing anything.
When the forensic team arrived from the St. Louis City Police Department, they discovered something really, really strange that they hadn't seen before.
We noticed what at first glance appeared to be pillow stuffing, but upon closer inspection, we noted that it was some kind of organic material.
There was an inordinate amount of organic material that was sprayed on the back of her headboard, around the invitations that were on her bed, and then around the rest of her bedroom in that apartment. It was actually collected by our evidence technicians and processed forensically. After completion of processing the scene, our next step was to interview the witnesses that we had. In this case, Mr. Green was the first individual that contacted 911, and he was the person who discovered Miss Peters had been murdered.
Cornelius and Jocelyn met at Fannie Mae Middle School. He was the principal there, and Jocelyn was a teacher.
He was involved with a philanthropic fraternity that operates in the St. Louis region. So yeah, a very upstanding individual.
He actively pursued Jocelyn. Flowers, candy. Cornelius told Jocelyn that he was legally separated and pretty much get ready to file for divorce.
Our initial interview of Cornelius Green at the Homicide Division on the night of the murder, myself and Detective Hersberg sat down with him.
Ask you one thing. May I have you sit right there?
Cornelius struck me as being extremely troubled by what he had seen inside the apartment.
Hey, I just want to express my condolences to you, okay? We're going to do everything we can to help get you through this situation, okay? Let's kind of back up and go from like how your day started today. You stayed at the apartment with Miss Peters?
I was in Chicago. Just got back off the train.
You were in Chicago?
Yes, sir.
Last night?
It's been there since Tuesday morning.
When did you come home from Chicago?
Today, 2:57.
Other investigators with our homicide unit went to obviously verify this, and they verified that Mr. Green was the passenger on that Amtrak ticket. And they further identified through surveillance at the Amtrak station Mr. Green exiting the Amtrak, and it was right around 2:57 p.m.
So, Cornelius, how long have you known Jocelyn?
4 years.
And
In 2010. They started dating in 2011.
Any long periods of time where there was other men involved or other women involved?
No, sir.
Okay. She was currently pregnant, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
During Cornelius Green's interview, he had asked to use his telephone to call his daughter. So we provided him his cellular phone, and we left the interview room.
But when the police leave an interrogation room, they don't ever stop watching.
Hey. I'm down there. Jocelyn was murdered.
I heard and saw Cornelius get on the phone and call what I could hear as a male voice on the other line.
I'm down at police department.
And said, hey, you got to go get my car from in front of Jocelyn's house.
I need that to happen like right now. Thank you.
And then he immediately made a phone call to his wife, Stephanie Green. They were separated but still legally married.
Are you home or out? Can you meet up with Philip, please? Hey, my car key.
Where's he at?
40 in my closet. That's where the big Amico is.
He says, you need to get over to the Amico gas station and meet Philip Cutler and get the keys to the car.
It's clear Cornelius lied to investigators about calling his daughter. So just who is this Philip Cutler?
Police decided we're not going to let anything slide.
Investigators responded out to that location, and Mr. Cutler was brought to the St. Louis Police Department's Homicide Division and placed in an interview room.
Ask you some questions. Okay. You're fully aware there was a homicide, correct?
Yes.
So how long have you known Cornelius?
Since we were in grade school.
We learned that Philip Cutler and Cornelius Green were friends and that they'd maintained their relationship for many years and they considered each other brothers. He was living in Oklahoma. He said he'd moved there recently.
We're like brothers that are apart, but we just call each other every now and then to check on each other.
Do you know who the victim was?
Yes, I know of her. I mean, I know who she was, yeah.
So you were aware that he was about to be a daddy again?
Yes.
How long have you known that?
I guess a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks ago.
He further stated he knew Cornelius's wife, Stephanie. He knew Cornelius was separated from his wife. So then we asked, what brought you to St. Louis? Well, Cornelius wanted me to come down here and visit him.
Just give me a time line from like now till... And you guys hang out? You and Cornelius hang out like the next day or what?
Well, he had to leave town. He went out of town to go on some trip to do something. I forget. He told me.
So, how did you get around while you were in town here?
I was driving Cornelius's car.
Okay.
We interviewed Philip Cutler for a while, and we took a break in the interview at a certain point, and I went back to my desk to watch him in the room.
Moments after he left, the video camera shows Mr. Cutler reach into his rear pants pocket and remove a notebook. And he's thumbing through several pages.
He tears out a couple pages and eats them. He eats a couple pages from a notebook.
He's just chomping it down.
I was pretty sure those pages had Jocelyn's address and apartment number on those pages. That was frustrating.
It was definitely a red flag as to his involvement and his attempt to destroy evidence.
I have never seen or heard of anything like this occurring in an interrogation, ever. While this behavior is extremely strange, it's still not enough to arrest someone or charge someone with murder, so they had to let them go.
Cornelius never called to see if there was any leads, what was going on. Not one time. This is the woman that you just claim you gave a ring proposing marriage and the mother of your child. You haven't called one time.
In light of the odd behavior surrounding this case, detectives obtained warrants to investigate Cornelius's online search history.
As the days went on, we found a lot of darkness in Cornelius's closet.
Police found some very disturbing searches, ways to abort a fetus or induce miscarriage through use of various prescription pills or chemicals or things like that.
Cornelius Green's computer data painted a picture that this was a guy who really did not want to have the child that he and Jocelyn were expecting.
As the focus shifts to Cornelius as prime suspect, detectives grapple with other unanswered questions, like where was the murder weapon? Why didn't anyone in Jocelyn's building report hearing a gunshot? And what was the strange organic matter found at the crime scene?
In the city of St. Louis, the case made the local newspaper and the local news immediately after occurring. That generated some tips specifically regarding various other relationships that Mr. Green was involved in.
We learned he had multiple relationships with multiple different women. Cornelius was legally married, not divorced.
So I found out from Jocelyn that she was starting to really sort of kind of questioning Cornelius. It was that Wednesday. She called just really upset and crying, and she was just like, he's supposed to be getting his divorce today, but he's in Chicago.
Cornelius gave every woman in his life, basically a different excuse, from his wife to two of his girlfriends to Jocelyn and Jocelyn's family for the reason why he'd gone to Chicago.
He was a playboy, and he was very good at manipulating women into believing he was going to leave his wife for them and that they were the one for him and he was going to start a life with them. They also found text messages between him and Philip Cutler referencing a package.
During this text, he asked Philip Cutler, hey, I need you to come into town. And he goes, when? And Cornelius said the week of March 20th, spring break. Philip texts back, okay, be sure to send the package.
That immediately raised their suspicion. They wanted to know what was that package.
Detectives Biondolino called a contact of his at the United Parcel Service. We learned that Cornelius Green had sent a package to Cutler's Oklahoma address, and it was sent from the address of Cornelius Green's school.
They asked Philip Cutler, hey, what was in this package? And to their surprise, Philip Cutler volunteered that there was about $2,500 worth of cash in there. Oh, it was because he wanted to send money for me to come visit him in St. Louis. And then lo and behold, they discovered that the dance team at Cornelius Green's school was missing $2,500 from their fundraising funds.
We received an anonymous tip that Cornelius had a firearm, a handgun.
We obtained a receipt from 2012 where Cornelius Green was identified as the purchaser of a .380 caliber semi-automatic handgun, which is exactly the same caliber handgun that matches the ballistic shell casing and the bullet removed from victim Peters and used to murder her. It's obvious to us that this was a conspiracy conducted by the both of them together to commit this murder.
Cornelius Green struck me as a person whose world was kind of falling in around him, and maybe Jocelyn was an inconvenience to him, and he might have taken the steps to remove her from the equation.
Cornelius Green and Philip Cutler's strange behavior isn't going unnoticed by detectives. And now they have a clear motive. Cornelius allegedly sent Cutler $2,500 to visit. And all this the same weekend Jocelyn Peters was shot and killed in cold blood. The whole thing points to murder for hire. And what about that mystery substance? Well, that's where science comes in.
In regards to this substance, was splattered around Jocelyn's body. It was later determined by our crime lab to be potato.
Being pregnant, Jocelyn was keeping notes about her diet on her fridge. And detectives found an open bag of 10 pounds of potatoes. And they looked over that meal plan and discovered there was no mention of potatoes anywhere in this diet.
It was not something that she would eat because she didn't eat those starchy foods.
Detectives were so stumped by scraps of a potato at this murder scene. They just could not understand why this would have happened.
Neither of us had any context for why there should be a splatter potato, and we did computer searches. We landed upon a film from 1992 called South Central. In that film, there's a execution-style murder. The shooter has wedged a potato on the end of a revolver and used it as a silencer.
Mommy, don't do it!
Given that this was an apartment building that, the units were close to each other and nobody reported hearing a gunshot, maybe this potato was used as a silencer.
And what that made me think of, it wasn't an act of spontaneity. It was an added level of planning and deliberation.
The detectives' attention was drawn to this bag of potatoes, and they found the receipt from Aldi. So they decided to go to Aldi and pull the surveillance footage and see what went on. And sure enough, they found Cornelius Green with Jocelyn purchasing this bag of potatoes at Aldi. That surveillance footage happened on the Sunday before Cornelius was leaving for Chicago, and that's when the puzzle pieces really started falling together.
With the potato evidence firmly connecting Cornelius to Jocelyn's murder, investigators work with the FBI to nail down the final link in the chain. presumed triggerman Philip Cutler.
Ironically, on Jocelyn's block, there's a building called the Regional Justice Information Systems building, and it is festooned with video surveillance cameras. It showed that Cornelius Green's car, a white Kia Optima, enters Jocelyn's block about 3:19 a.m. and leaves about, I think it was like 3:45 a.m.
It was indisputable at that point that the car was in the area and moving to that area moments before the murder. They were able to use Google mapping triangulation to pinpoint every move that Philip Cutler made on the night in question.
The FBI helped us determine positioning and location data for Philip Cutler throughout the few days that he was in St. Louis to do this deed.
We're able to take that information that we get from his search warrant from his Gmail account, search warrant from his cellular device, and the Google location information showed that the night of the murder, in between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. on various times, he was within 7 to 19 meters, which would place him inside of Miss Peters' residence.
Finally, on June 9, 2016, Philip Cutler is arrested for the murder of Jocelyn Peters and her unborn child. Cornelius Green is arrested in connection with the murder soon after. However, for a variety of reasons, the case doesn't go to trial for another 8 years. Ultimately, Federal Assistant U.S. Attorney Tiffany Becker is brought in to prosecute.
I'm basically a federal prosecutor who prosecutes federal crimes that have an interstate nexus or are violations of federal statute. In this case, we had the murder for hire. Cornelius Green showed Philip Cutler where Jocelyn was living, how to gain access, when the best time to commit the murder would be. And the very next morning, Cornelius Green beat feet out of St. Louis and went to Elgin, Illinois to establish his alibi. During that period of time, Philip Cutler used the vehicle that Cornelius Green had given him. He used the key that had been provided to him by Cornelius Green to Jocelyn's house. Philip Cutler entered her apartment. He quietly obtained the potato that they had shopped for at Aldi, used it as a silencer, and fired one shot into the eye of Jocelyn Peters, killing her and Micah Lee, her unborn child. Looking into the location information of Philip Cutler after the murder, he visited North Riverfront Park. That park is on the Mississippi River. He went there in the early morning hours after having talked to Cornelius Green on the phone. We don't know what was said, but it appeared that Cornelius directed Philip to go ditch the murder weapon in the river. Philip Cutler pleaded not guilty, and we presented the testimony of numerous witnesses and an extraordinary amount of evidence. And at the conclusion, the jury swiftly convicted him on both counts. Cornelius Green pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit murder for hire and murder for hire. He was sentenced to 2 life consecutive terms, one for Jocelyn's murder and one for her unborn child. So they will be imprisoned for the rest of their lives.
Jocelyn's pregnancy and that baby, in Cornelius Green's mind, represented a threat to this persona that he had established as far as being a playboy, and it could bring all of that house of cards tumbling down. It is my sincere belief that if Jocelyn Peters would not have been pregnant, she would still be alive today.
When you see someone that has so much potential and has done so much for the community and is such a good person, and this is done to her by someone she trusts and loves. So from a human standpoint, from the police department, it's extremely important for this to be solved.
Jocelyn was an expecting mother, and as a father, it really hit home. I have a daughter, I can't imagine, I pray, that my daughter would never get involved with a man like Cornelius Green.
If you could say anything to Cornelius Green or to Cutler, what would you tell them?
You could have walked away. You could have walked away. She would have been just fine. You could have walked away.
Cornelius Green was living a double life. He believed the murder was the only way to erase the part that had become problematic. And he thought that hiring his friend to do the dirty work would keep his hands clean. He was wrong. This guy learned the hard way that nothing, not even a potato, could silence the evil that he did to Jocelyn and their unborn child. Game over for the cheating principal and his hitman homie. And that's just one more way to catch a killer.